Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Shannon, and this is Sewing with Nightmare. Today, I'm going to be making this Angela Clayton skirt, and I believe that it is an 1890s inspired look. So the material that I'm going to be using today is this wool suiting that I got from Mood Fabrics. It is a very lightweight wool suiting. It's kind of got a little bit of a loose weave, and I bought it as dead stock. It was on sale. I am going to be making view B, this one. It has these decorative buttons on it, but if I'm being totally honest with you, I don't want to waste buttons that I might want to use on another project on this, so I'm going to make it and see if I want to put the buttons on, because I think if I leave them off, it might look okay either way. There's a lot of buttons on there if you put those decorative buttons, and I'm not sure that I want to use up some buttons in my stash that I could use for an actual project. So I tend to not do a whole lot of decorative buttons when I see that, unless I don't think those buttons could be used better somewhere else. So anyways, I'm being long-winded. So let's go get started. I have already traced out my size, which I'm going to be making a size 16. So based on the measurements for my waist and my hips, that size should be the right size. And if it is too big, it will likely not be too small. I almost never have that problem. If it's too big, I can always take it in a little bit. But I will say that McCall's patterns in general for the bottoms, for the waist and the hips, for skirts at least, I generally don't have a problem if I go by my measurements and I actually make the size that it says I'm supposed to. So let's go get started. So here I am just laying out all of my pattern pieces and making sure that the grain line is even with the selvage to make sure that it is on grain. And then I decided that I didn't want to pin it because it was moving around entirely too much with this fabric. So I decided to trace it out with some chalk and then also at the same time add in all of my markings. Or I'm not really sure. Maybe I added them in afterwards, but the chalk worked out much better. So I traced it out with the chalk and then I put in my pins to hold the pieces that I chalked out in place, and then I cut them. And I think this worked better for this fabric in particular because, like I said, I was just having some trouble with the fabric moving around and shifting too much when I was just trying to pin it. And then here I am putting the markings on that specific piece. And then I think I do go back later and put the markings in again because I use this white chalk, but sometimes it rubs off. And at the time, I did not have any heat erasable pens that wouldn't just rub off when I was handling the material. So I ended up having to use chalk, which I had different colored chalks at the time. I still do, but I just used a different colored chalk that would show up a little bit better because, as you know, like chalk's just going to rub off after a while and it's not going to show up anymore. And then here, what I'm doing is I'm making the pleat markings on my fabric so that I can see it a little bit better, because I guess when I did it the first time, it didn't come out as well. So I'm making the holes a little bit bigger in the pattern and then making marks with this pink chalk. And then once I make the marks for the holes to mark out the pleats, then I go in with a ruler and sketch out where those lines are supposed to be. So that's why I just keep going back and forth to the pattern so that I know which way to fold the pleat, because I believe there's like 2 pleats on the front, or rather 4 pleats on the front and 4 pleats on the back. So it's important to make sure that you have them placed correctly and then fold them in the right direction. So here I'm pinning them into place so that I can then go sew them. So I have made the pleats here, and now I'm going to stitch across the top on both of these and then top stitch down to these marks that I made here. So I'm gonna go do that. So here's the top stitching that I'm making from the top of the skirt all the way down to the mark, and then I'm back stitching several times in that spot in order to hold it in place. And these are kind of, I guess, the shaping that it gets for the skirt, and then it kind of flares out a little bit at the bottom. And there you can see that I have top stitched it and how it's going to look. And then here I'm just doing the same thing on the other side, and then I believe that it's the same thing in the back as well. They might be a little bit smaller pleats or bigger pleats, I can't really remember, but this pattern is really not super complicated. So just has you top stitch those pleats down for shaping, and then you snuggle Nightmare, of course. And here you can see that he has come up for snuggles, and I will show you here in the next clip how he's actually like laying on me, because I got a good angle here of like how he sticks his face in my neck, and you can kind of see how he has like his nose and mouth up against me, and that's part of the reason why he ends up drooling on me. I think he just gets so relaxed that he purrs and drools. I don't know, it's a weird thing that he's done ever since he was little. So now I'm going to stitch the side front pieces and the center front pieces together. So this is the side front piece here, and I'm going to stitch this here and then this one here. So here I am just hand stitching this button placket piece down, and as you can see here that Nightmare has come over to supervise my work and make sure that it is up to standard. Honestly, he just wants the string, and I don't know about you guys, but if you have cats and you try to hand sew, do you guys have the same problem? Because anytime I hand sew, Nightmare or one of the other cats is right there and wants to attack my string, and I have to constantly tell him no. So in this clip, I'm just top stitching down the back center seam in the back, and it calls for some top stitching in this pattern on some of the seam lines. And in this next clip here, I am putting the front and back skirt pieces together at the side seams. So this is my front facing, and I've already hand basted the interfacing into place because it's a sew-in interfacing. That's what they want you to use. So now I'm going to stay stitch. So once you stay stitched, then you fold down the seam allowance of those pointed pieces, and then you attach the two waistband pieces or the three waistband pieces together, and you trim back one side. I cannot remember which side it is, but you trim back one of those sides, and then you do right side to wrong side on the skirt, I believe, in order to attach the waistband, and then you should understitch. This pattern does not specifically tell you to understitch, and here I'm also pulling out all of my basting stitches and trimming back the stabilizer. But this pattern does not tell you to understitch. However, if you do not understitch, especially for me, my stitching was showing on the outside. The inside of the skirt was showing on the outside, so I decided to go back and understitch it, and it came out looking much better and much more neat. So here is where I'm attaching that waistband with right side of the waistband to wrong side of the skirt, and then I turn it and understitch and top stitch all of these corner pieces in place. And this was slightly fiddly, and you had to make sure that you had it perfectly flat, which was kind of difficult with this fabric because it was a very drapey fabric, which I like, but at the same time, it makes it much more difficult to work with. But I do like that this was a super easy, simple project to do. It didn't take very long at all. So once you're done with the waistband and the top stitching of the waistband, you just have to do some hand finishing. And this here is where I am putting on a bias tape. So I've already stitched it down on the front with the right side together in that first fold, and then I fold it back, press it in place, and then hand stitch it with an invisible slip stitch here all the way around the bottom of the skirt to finish off the hem. And then the next part that I don't believe I recorded was sewing the hook and bar and the snaps in the back that hold the skirt closed. So I think you can see in some of these shots that I'm having trouble with this thread becoming tangled because this is not the right thread for hand sewing, and at the time I did not have any. I actually probably don't have any in a matching thread color for this project anyway right now, but I will have to definitely invest in some better hand sewing thread because this thread was not it, and it kept getting tangled and knotted, and it was driving me absolutely insane. So let's talk about this skirt. I really like how this skirt came out. It's super cute, and I do like how I styled it in the video. I'm just gonna have to figure out other ways to style it and things that I can wear it with because I'm not big on heels, so wearing heels all the time with a skirt would probably not be realistic for me. I'm not adverse to the length. If it was floor length, that would be more of a problem for me because I don't like skirts that are floor length and I will end up shying away from them. But since this one hits somewhere closer to like right above the ankle, that's probably a good spot for me. So with that being said, I'm super excited to wear this skirt and figure out other ways to style it. And I have some other things in mind for videos coming up that are going to include some other things that I can style with this. So I'm super excited because I'm going to be making another history bounding or historically inspired project that I'm hoping will pair well with this skirt. That's all for now. If you like my content and want to support my channel, please like and subscribe. I try to post 3 times a month, and I am getting ready to do some live stuff and some more cosplay stuff. So I'm excited to share that with you guys. I will see you guys in my next video.